I think that instead of getting rank 14, we should all watch this video or open up a jiu-jitsu studio. What do you guys think? Would you guys come to my jiu-jitsu studio? I was kind of thinking about it. I was thinking maybe playing all these video games maybe is a waste of time. Maybe instead I should become a purple belt, open up a jiu-jitsu studio, and then I'll get a Mercedes and I'll have a wife and kids, and then people will look at me and be like, hey, I want to be you. Because that's what Joe Rogan said. Imagine taking advice from that bald fuck, dude. I bet you I could take Joe Rogan in a fucking fight, dude. I actually think I could take Joe Rogan in a fight. I think I could take him in a fight. You know why, dude? Because he lost the hair. Imagine losing the hair. I could take Joe Rogan in a fight, man. Why are you guys making such a big deal about this? Dude, he's some bald dude. He's some bald dude. Bro, Joe can fight? Dude, he's a podcaster just like me. There's no difference between me and Joe Rogan. He might make like a little bit more money than me. But he's also, you know, the time thing, you know? The time thing. It took him a lot longer than it took me. Dude, watch his spinning kick video. I think that would be cheating, right? Like, what if Joe Rogan and I fight? I don't want to cheat. I don't want to learn all of his moves before we even fight, because then I would destroy him, because I would know all of his weaknesses. You don't actually need to be strong if you're smart. And I could prepare for the fights, and I would know all of his moves. It'd be like in an anime. Be like, how are you moving so fast? It's like, I'm not moving fast. I already know where you're going to go. And I mean, like, fucking... And Joe Rogan would get tired. He would tire himself out. He'd beat himself. He'd be like... And at the very end, I'd just walk up to Joe Rogan, and I'd just be like, play video games, you little bitch. Dead ass, bro. Dead ass. That's what happened. No cap on a stack, man. Yo, in all seriousness, though, I've never watched the Joe Rogan Experience. I do want to watch the Joe Rogan Experience. I just haven't, because I just feel like watching the Joe Rogan Experience. Like, I would watch the Joe Rogan Experience and it would be fun. I'd have a lot of fun. And I'd be like, wow, I'm having so much fun. I'm going to watch more of the Joe Rogan Experience, right? And then I'd just be watching the Joe Rogan Experience for 3 years. And I'd be having such a great time watching the Joe Rogan Experience. And I'd be like, oh my God, I just spent all this time watching the Joe Rogan Experience, and I don't have a jiu-jitsu studio. I don't have a Mercedes-Benz. I don't have a hot wife. And ultimately, it would just be a waste of time. So I feel like I shouldn't watch the Joe Rogan Experience. I should just play karate. Yo, in all seriousnness, though, I don't disagree with Joe Rogan that much. I actually think, like, most of the people who I obviously, like, I love joking around about shit as much as the next guy, but I don't disagree with Joe Rogan all that much. I think he worded what he said kind of poorly, but I get what he's trying to say. I don't think that video games are like a waste of time. What did he say? Okay, dude, people are freaking out about this shit, but I feel like gamers overreact to shit sometimes. This is what he said. And this is the clip, right? This is just the clip.
You know why? Because they're fucking fun.
Addictive.
And you don't, yeah. And video games are a real problem. They're a real problem. You know why? Because they're fucking fun.
Addictive.
And you don't, yeah. Well, I have a real problem with them. And you do them, and they're real exciting, but you don't get anywhere.
Right.
It's like you could do like martial arts, right? You could learn jiu-jitsu. You get obsessed by jiu-jitsu, and then 3 years later, you're like an elite jiu-jitsu athlete. You're entering in competitions. You're a purple belt.
You're moving up.
Yeah, you're doing well.
Right.
You're thinking like, I
Now,
might be able to open my own.
I think that he said it completely wrong. Like, I think that the way that he said it is really wrong. Because I do think that there are a lot of trends in video games right now that are meant to waste our time as gamers. And I think that that is a problem. I don't think that video games are a problem. And I think that there are a lot of things that you can achieve in good video games. And I think that there are a lot of really incredible things that come from video games, like making friends, creating incredible memories. And, you know, I think I learned a lot of my skills that I have, regardless of being a streamer. I mean, look at me being a commentator. There are a lot of skills that I learned from video games, like with public speaking, right? Like when I'm a commentator, I learned a lot of that stuff. I mean, Joe Rogan and I had a very similar career path, actually, if you think about it, right? I started, like, he started, I'm assuming, I'm not sure about this, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm assuming that he started out as I know that this is funny to say, to actually draw the parallel, but I just thought about it right now. He started off as a commentator, right? Oh, he started in comedy? Okay, I thought he started off as a commentator. Okay, so we had a different route. I'm incorrect. But I started off as, no, he started as an athlete. See, I thought that he started as an athlete and then became a commentator, but I could be like completely wrong about that. I thought Fear Factor was after he was a commentator. I know that he was on Fear Factor, right? But it's not about being on the same level, Gravity. It's about similar things happening. It's not about level, it's about time. But look at it this way. I loved video games back when video games I don't think were toxic. If I was a parent right now, I wouldn't let my kids play just any video game. Like, I wouldn't let my kid just play any video game. I think there are a lot of bad video games out there, right? Like, I think that some of the video games out there are actually meant to waste your time. WoW, currently, World of Warcraft is not a game that I would allow my child to play. I actually would not let my kid play World of Warcraft in its current state. I would not let my child play BFA. BFA, I actually think, is one of those games that's actually designed to be toxic now, which breaks my heart. I would let my kid play vanilla, though. And I would let my kid play classic. I would let my kid play BFA, and then I'm hoping, or not BFA, BC, and I'm hoping that Shadowlands is an expansion that I would let my kid play. I think BFA is like actually made to waste time. With classic, you can have a really good experience by going super hard for a little while. And like classic launch was one of the best experiences I've had in recent years, maybe ever. The relaunch of classic might be one of my best memories in gaming, period. But I wouldn't want to do that forever. And then the other thing with classic is you can log on all the time and have all of those friends there, even if you go away for a little while. That's good. That's a good game. Having a game try to make you log on as much as possible and suck you in and be addictive, I think is fucked up. I'm not saying that, you know, people won't get sucked into different things, like, but that's fine. You know, people get sucked into anything, but when it's designed to do that to you, it's really bad, in my opinion. And I think that that's what he's starting to get at, right? Because it's really easy to, video games are like opera. You're overwhelmed with sounds, visuals, like it is fucking awesome. And that can be used for bad. I think that the karate example that he gives is kind of stupid, and I think that that's the thing that like made him look, because it's like he then assigns like all of these values to what you get out of pursuing jujitsu or karate or whatever martial art he uses as an example. He assigns all these things that might have value to someone but might not have value to another person, which I think is where like a lot of people are like, this is a stupid point. But at the end of the day, it's obviously admirable to pursue a martial art and want to have a dream, right? And I think for video games, a lot of dreams come out of it as well. You can learn a lot of skills, but I do think that there are some games that are bad. And I think that that's a very reasonable thing to say. Wasn't he just using it as an example? Yeah. And I don't think that it's like, I don't think what he's saying with the example is wrong, but I think like a lot of people held on to the way that he used the example as like, this is such like a shitty, this is hypocritical. This is an example of like things that wouldn't even happen, right? Like so many people are like, you can make a lot more as a Twitch streamer than owning a dojo. And it's like, that's not what he's trying to say, obviously. But there are a lot of things that are great about pursuing a martial art that are different than pursuing a video game. But yeah, I think that like there are obviously like a lot of benefits to putting a lot of time into pursuing different things, right? There are a lot of things that you'll get out of a martial art. Discipline, you'll challenge yourself, physical health. I'm sure you meet a lot of friends as well. I think video games can also help teach discipline, can help make you make friends, right? But I think that there are a lot of things that happen that are designed to loop people into negative behaviors and also to get people to spend money that are really negative around video games. I think that shit should be called out. And also, something being fun isn't bad, right? I think like a lot of people want to just say that something just being fun is bad as well. Having fun is great. And some video games, like grouping video games into one bucket is kind of stupid. That's like saying that all books are good and all books are bad. It's like, dude, there are books out there that are literally cult novels or propaganda that tried to alter the way that somebody thinks for monetary gain or political gain or things like that. There are books that are literally porn. There are books that are also going to change the way that you think in a positive way, potentially open up your mind to things that you never thought about before. And there are also books that are just fun. Where can I get those? DM me. Yeah, I actually write erotic fan fiction of Asmongold and McConnell. Well, it's really more Asmongold and S-Fan, and McConnell just watches. Yeah, that's how I write it. The crux of it is, though, is when you look at video games are medium. It's actually what I went to school for. I didn't think I'd be talking about this ever again. I thought that school was just a waste of time. It was a lot of fun, but 5 years later, like, man, I could have been having sex the whole time. Wait, I heard he was. Just kidding, I'm a virgin. Dude, Bennett Foddy was one of my professors in school. He made QWOP and Getting Over It. You guys ever play Getting Over It? I beat it on stream the other day. No! But yeah, I fucking, all I wanted to do was make games. And I am so happy with what I do now. And everything that I did led me to here, right? So, how are you going to call that a waste of time? I think that's the thing that's, also really important with that. Just because you spend your time in a hobby, if it's jujitsu, right, in that example, you don't know where it's going to lead you. I think the more important lesson that I'm not teaching, just that has happened with me, is the idea that you just don't say no to anything, and you just go on for the ride, and just enjoy life.
School one day.
You got confidence.
Yeah, if I have 100 students and those 100 students are paying me X amount of dollars per month, I can make a living. Holy shit, I can have this would be amazing. And then you see your jiu-jitsu school and your jiu-jitsu instructor has all these students and drives a Mercedes and he's got a nice family and that's the future. This way you're doing something exciting and fun and you don't. Or you could just be playing fucking video games. 3 years later, you could be that same kid just playing video games, waiting for the next whatever the fuck game is, next Xbox game to come out, and you're gonna waste your time.
That's the part where he looks dumb, right? That's the dumb part, because the thing is it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that some people can turn their hobbies into jobs. I think but I understand that, Derry. I'm saying I actually think that he has a good take, but he just in the last few seconds turned his take into something idiotic. He made himself look he ruined his own take here by just talking off the cuff, right? You shouldn't go into a hobby expecting it to be a job. That's a pipe dream. For pretty much starting off having jiu-jitsu as a hobby, saying I'm going to become a teacher of a dojo is obviously stupid. Picking up a skateboard, which is a really fun thing to do, as Weplord just said, I skateboarded my whole life. We literally found old videos of me skateboarding on YouTube. I have so many good memories from that. I learned how to fall and get up all the time. And, you know, I'm sure that you can try to say that that helped me get fired a million times. But by the end of the day, we were just having fun. And you know, it's not about becoming a pro skater. The pipe, dude! The pipe, dude! Yo, dude! John broke his board, dude! We're gonna be pros, man! Like, the thing is, though, is it's like, that wasn't a waste of time. We were happy, you know? We were fucking happy. That was my buddy John, man. We were happy. We were having a fucking good time. We were having a good time, and that's fine. And like, the thing is obviously you can become a streamer on Twitch. You can become a pro video game player. You can end up making video games, but literally any time that somebody tells me that like that's their goal and like that's why they're doing something, I tell them not to do it, right? And like, I'm one of the people who is lucky. I don't say that like everything's a waste of time. But it's not going to happen for most people. Like, it barely happened for me, right? Like, and anybody who's been doing it, you know that it barely happens for anybody that it happens to. And if you really like something, like, everything has an upside to it. You can be blessed with like different opportunities a million times. That's not why you do a hobby. I do think though that like the greater thing with this though is like video games are art, in my opinion. Some are things that you're going to get incredible stories from, right? Like, you can play like The Witcher and you can tell those stories down the line. Like, they're stories that stick with you and they make you think of worlds that you've never seen before. World of Warcraft was like this great adventure when it first came out, right? Certain games are fun to mechanically master and you get like a kinesthetic pleasure out of it. Like, there's so many different things that you can enjoy from video games. It's a medium. It's like the same as watching a movie, right? Like, every movie's different. Some of them are porn. You're going to jack off to them. And other ones, instead of cooming to, you're going to learn, you know, there are documentaries where you can learn about different things, right? Like, and it can take you to different places around the world that we don't have the ability to travel to. The thing is, though, and the reason why I think he has this take, there are a lot of bad people out there who are really intelligent. And they're taking the thing that we love and they are turning it into something that does hurt people. Like, when I showed all those indie games that my friends made, like Ape Out, Circa Infinity, Soft Bodies, right? Like, Getting Over It, all of those games, those were made by people who were artists. It was made by people who thought of an incredible experience and they wanted to make that vision into a reality. And no matter what they did, if they had another job, if they didn't have enough time to do it, they still needed to make it. And some people in chat probably understand that phenomena. A lot of us probably do. There are going to be moments where certain people feel this thing that you can't quite put your finger on it. You like have to do it. There's like this part of you like where you feel the need to create this idea that you have. Some people do it in writing, some people do it in singing, some people do it through dancing, some people like it's just like it's this thing that makes us human, and other people might not have that, but they enjoy sharing it. And even making memes to a certain extent. Yeah, it's like making this thing, and it's so human to share that and get to share experiences and ideas in that way. It's the best part about being human. I know that a lot of people are saying that Joe Rogan used to be severely addicted to video games. I'm not denying. I am saying that, like, I don't even think he probably agrees with his own take. But I think that there is a kernel there that is important. Like, there's a kernel to what he's saying that I do think is important, because it's not about necessarily video games wasting our time as much as it is about video games being invaded by companies that want to get people as addicted as they can to their shit games that don't do any of those things that other video games do, taking up the airwaves, like really oppressing a lot of different artists and fucking over gamers and fucking over people as an extension. Most AAAs design their games to be as addicting as possible. You mean Blizzard and Activision? I don't exclusively mean Blizzard and Activision. But if you look at World of Warcraft right now, I think World of Warcraft has clear examples of abusive game design that ruins gaming as an industry. World of Warcraft used to be a fantastic game where at a certain point at the end of the expansion, you beat the game. Now, the content that exists in the game, so much of the content that exists in the game, you're not able to play the content because it's time gated, the perfect amount. You have to grind so many things to be able to, I don't think that there's anything wrong with having grinding in video games, but like the way that it's gated, it tries to extend that time for as long as possible and not let you achieve those goals. I have only watched this 1 minute clip. And basically what I'm saying is I think that like his examples go like the wrong way in showing what, like expressing what he's trying to say. I think that it's very clear that some games are designed to make you waste your time and not paying attention to stuff, right? Like, I think that a lot of people look at this and because they're emotionally invested in video games and they like video games and they identify as somebody who plays video games, they instantly get like emotionally invested in this and are like, fuck Joe Rogan, when like, that's stupid. That's just as stupid as anything. I think that there are a lot of video games that are really fucked up now. And if you approach this with no biases, you can say, well, Joe, I don't agree with half of the things that you say. Like, I don't agree with half the things that you say, but you're onto something, right? And then build on it. How do you define waste of time? I mean, obviously, like, I totally agree with that. That's a really good question. I agree with asking that question. I think that the video games that are bad, I think one of the things that I would say, like, video games that are designed that are a waste of time now is something that you'll never get a story out of it. You'll never, like, really meet friends with it. You're really not going to have that much fun with it, but you feel like you have to keep spinning the wheel. And you're going to continuously chase it forever and never really get anything out of it, right? Like, and I think that sounds like something so ridiculous because you're like, oh, who would do that? Who would just play a game where you can never beat it and you're constantly just putting more coins in and playing the slot machine game? But that is getting added into so many games, and I think that is something that, you know, this conversation is actually important. I think that the conversation that he's trying to have is definitely fucking important. I don't think Hearthstone is a waste of time. I prefer Magic the Gathering over Hearthstone, but I think card games are great. They make you think in creative ways. They're fun. The reason that I like Magic the Gathering more is because I like sitting across the table from somebody. Like, I love Magic the Gathering and I love sitting across from another player. And I've made friends playing that game. And I feel nice going to a card shop and not necessarily even playing the game in a way where it's like pay to win, right? Sitting down next to people, being in an environment, enjoying being a human in a different place. And like, that's a good thing. And also, like, I've traveled to, you know, Magic is a cool game because I find Magic's like a really universal language. When I was traveling, like when I lived in Berlin, I didn't know anyone there really. And on Friday, I would go to a card shop and I played Magic against people. And I made friends in a new place because of it. I'm playing camera Magic the Gathering with friends. It's so much fun. That's so cool. Can you speak German? Nope, not at all. I could when I was there a little bit, but I forgot it all. But yeah, I don't know how we ended up like going so deep on this. I do think that there are a lot of things that Joe Rogan's like starting to say that I think are actually really important to the gaming industry as a whole. I think the way some of these games are made is incredibly toxic. It's manipulative. It gives us bad games to start with, and it's making all of our lives worse, right? As people who do love games, we're shoveled the bullshit because they know what we want, and they don't ever say anything like this, right? They don't ever say like video games are bad. Instead, they pretend to be your friend. Those video games are bad for all of us, and the trends are getting worse and worse. And it's smothering out the good games that create all of the good experiences that we had. The bad shit that he's alluding to smothers out all of the good shit that we love about video games. It's never going to stop. Capitalism at its finest. Look at it this way. Every single art form that's ever existed has been driven by the way that it's monetized. And it has evolved based on the way that it was monetized. Every single art form, the art that was produced within that medium was affected by its main and primary revenue stream. If you look at paintings, commissions were huge. What ended up happening because of that was the church could do most of the commissions. Entire styles of art are viewed, and art of the past and how we perceive the past is viewed through like this really like artistic lens of religion. And a big reason that a lot of that happens and a lot of those art styles happen and like different things, like you think about what Caravaggio painted, right? That is because the church was able to pay for it. And then a lot of the other things that you see, it's like royalty commissioning those paintings. You go and you look at different art forms and how they're commissioned or how they're paid for, and the same thing happens. Look at like what happened with writing. And then, you know, you go to something that's a little bit more prevalent in modernity. Look at television. Friends like ruined television. Friends did one thing really well. It told a story without anything happening at all. And basically what happened was people could make money based off of serialization. Yeah, Seinfeld definitely helped. There are a lot of shows. There are a lot of shows like it. And the reason that you can point to so many that happened at different times, you can look at Seinfeld, you can look at Friends, you can look at Star Trek. Syndication was the primary way to monetize television. The reason that we can think of so many examples is because that was the primary way to monetize television. That was actually Joe Rogan's take on Friends as well. You know what's funny? I've never watched the Joe Rogan podcast, but when I watched this video, I felt like I could tell what he was getting at. And that's why I'm talking about it. People try to shit on Seinfeld, but I'm pretty sure it's still literally on cable. That's the point. That's the point. People aren't necessarily shitting on Seinfeld. Of course Seinfeld is still on cable because you can watch an episode. Like it's literally like that's exactly the point. It's all about being able to serialize the show. When serialization became the primary way to monetize television, what happened? You could only tell stories that happened in a universe where nothing could ever change. So you could watch any episode in any order. Eventually it evolved to a format that we now call Monster of the Week. In Star Trek, a planet could explode, but because space is so big, you're never going to see the impact of that planet exploding in the next episode. Seinfeld, Friends, nothing ever happened to those people, but they were there. Eventually the Monster of the Week format came out. Monster of the Week found a way to tap into that by mostly having episodes where there was a monster that they had to defeat that wouldn't change the stakes of the show or greatly progress any character, but there would be certain episodes that would progress an overall narrative in the universe that would not be intrusive in those monster episodes. That started really and became pretty solidified. I mean, people will argue this, but X-Files was really one of the shows that did it in its cleanest form. The X-Files really hammered out Monster of the Week, and you can see it in a lot of shows that still run. Well, I guess this one just ended, but like Supernatural, for example. Supernatural did that. Buffy the Vampire Slayer ultimately did it. There are a lot of shows that ended up doing it. X-Files is really one of the ones that hammered out the details very, very well. Monster of the Week is actually great because it allowed people to get a story, but also they can monetize off of serialization. Doctor Who, yeah, you could make the argument that Doctor Who does it as well. Doctor Who is a lot looser on format. What ends up happening though now, TV is better than it's ever been before because distribution and monetization have completely changed. I can sit here right now and talk to a shitload of fucking people and look at how I monetize compared to how those other things were monetized. Look at the distribution compared to what distribution used to be. Look at how many people I need to pay to actually be able to do this. And everything changed. People freaked out over Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones is a great book. The TV show was really never that awesome. It was really never that good. I'll be completely honest. And if you watch a lot of anime and different things like that, the shock value that Game of Thrones had isn't going to throw people for such a loop. The reason that people freaked the fuck out during the first few seasons is because they weren't used to it at all. The reason that show is so good to so many people, I'm not saying it's terrible. I'm just talking, right? The reason that people fucking liked it so much was because they had never experienced a show where something actually fucking happened. They lost their fucking shit when they watched that show. It had stakes. It had a legitimate narrative string that pulled you along. It had stakes. It had all of these things that people were not used to. Characters that you cared about could die. If you watched that show out of order, you would have no fucking idea what was going on. What did it run on? HBO. Completely different monetization scheme than cable. Completely different monetization scheme. Breaking Bad was another show that pushed it. It was. And if you look at that network lost money on all of those shows. And then they had to double down on Walking Dead to actually start making money again. Because Walking Dead, the first time, at first, The Walking Dead was actually losing them money as well. Now, though, things like Amazon Prime, Netflix, streaming websites, they release series all at once, which are meant to be binged. They're all meant to be consumed in a different way. That evolution was able to happen for multiple reasons. It told better stories that people care about more. That's the actual art form winning and the medium actually winning. And then on top of that, distribution changed. Distribution has already changed for video games. I can make a video game right now and get it in all of your hands. When years ago, it'd be much more expensive, and that video game, good luck getting it. Distribution would be so fucking expensive. You know, you could sit there waiting for you could type in hex codes, you could fucking dial in to get the game. I don't know if anybody, the dial in magazine shit. Then you could, or you could wait and get it pressed by Activision, right? One of the biggest publishers. People forget Activision is not a game studio, it's a publisher, was how it acted. Why did publishers exist? Because publishers had the infrastructure to distribute. You don't fucking need that anymore. You don't fucking need it. You don't need it for any art form. An 8-year-old can stream Fortnite in his bedroom right now with the streaming service will allow an 8-year-old to do it. It all changed. Consoles, not nearly as necessary as they used to be. The barrier for entry shrinks. But what's happening right now is people are still finding better ways to monetize. And it's infecting what the medium actually creates. And what Joe Rogan is starting to say that's true at the beginning of this argument is the fact that a lot of that's very dangerous. It's designed to waste your time. It's designed to make you a zombie. Video games are an art form. Video games are genuinely, you are creating art when you create a video game. It is one of the strongest art forms that's ever existed because you are a character within it. You are inherently more tied to the story. It involves every single sense. It really does. I mean, obviously you can't taste video games yet unless you're tasting your own sweat because it's so fucking intense and you can't smell. But it's like the same as going to an opera. It's literally the same as going to a fucking opera. Why was opera such a big deal when it happened? All 3 of the 5 senses. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, though, is it's like when you look at the reason that I say that is because I'm using the opera example, right? The idea of a Kunstfahrenwerk. When you look at the other mediums, they don't tap into all the senses, right? Or as many of the senses. You are a voyeur only. You don't have any kinesthetic feel. You don't have the ability to ever communicate, whether it's through the medium or whether it's through people enjoying the medium with you. Most mediums do not have a chance to be so communal. You do not have the hearing going on typically at the same time that you're reading. The only time that really happens is during dub, and it's a distraction. Or sorry, during sub. The thing is, though, is like a lot of these video games, though, because it's such a powerful medium, there are a lot of problems with the medium as well, right? I mean, half the time the ludic elements don't line up with the narrative elements, which is going to cause the game to be a lot weaker. And what it's trying to do will not be as accomplished as easily. When you have ludic elements and narrative elements that actually do line up, the art is going to be a lot stronger. And then you back that up with strong art. You back that up with strong sound design, strong folly design. You're there. Like there's no Ludo-narrative harmony with like a game like WoW, for example, right? When you have something that powerful, it's like fucking MK Ultra, dude. No, not Lud harmony. Ludic means the mechanics in the game. The ludic elements are like the gameplay elements. Ludology would be like like studying games, right? So narrative is the story of the game, or like so like the when you talk about like Ludo-narrative dissonance, it's a term that people who like to masturbate to games will say a lot. That means that the actual mechanics and the game and the storytelling elements are button heads. A really interesting example of Ludo-narrative dissonance, which was actually an attempt to make the elements talk to each other is Grand Theft Auto. Have you studied this? Yeah, this is actually what I went to college for 5 years, and to a program at NYU called Gallatin, where you major on major. And the major that I created was called, and this is why Berserk, I keep telling you to do your fucking homework. Don't you H omega lol MEW omega lol RK me, young man. The thing that I studied, the major that I created, Berserkers, no! The major that I created was called Narrative Strategies for Contemporary Media. You went to college for 5 years, and now you play WoW professionally, lol W. You do what you love at the end of the day. So what I was saying is right now, there are a lot of things in video games that are using that. Oh, the Grand Theft Auto. I was saying the Grand Theft Auto story. So in Grand Theft Auto, and I think I've talked about this before on stream, you have love interests that you would take out on dates in Grand Theft Auto 4. Here, let me see if there's a YouTube video on this. Together with friendships, girlfriends in Grand Theft Auto 4 are one of the longest and most annoying parts of the game. Nika will take the opportunity to hang out with girls, Michelle, Kate, Carmen, Kiki, and Alexandra. So basically, inside Grand Theft Auto, there were a bunch of different girlfriends. And each of the girlfriends would give a perk. You would get the advantage of like if you dated one of the girls, like it would actually give you an advantage. Except for Kate. Kate gave you absolutely nothing. Kate was the girl that you loved. Kate was the girl in the game. And the thing is like there are a bunch of things where you can like go down to like why they did it. And it's like, oh, it's like, isn't that incredible? Like you fall in love with a girl for love. Or you, they're like the reward is love, right? Like there are all these things that, but what it actually did was it created a huge amount of Ludo-narrative dissonance. Because you don't actively think about a game like that when you're playing. You're taking in all the stimulus. You look at what the character looks like. You feel I recently got divorced and gained 10 HP. Yo, congratulations. You feel the different elements of the game. All of those little things that you don't think about, they add up. You know, if you're playing a marksmanship hunter and you're standing back and you're like standing in place, taking a shot and aiming it, and poof, that feels like you just lined up a shot, and that builds on the fantasy. That builds on the story. That builds on the skill name. That builds on all of these things. When you're playing the game and you're receiving all the story, and then the mechanics are telling you something different, the mechanics are getting processed in the same way that the elements of the game are, and you're just like, wow, Kate is useless, fuck Kate. And everybody hated Kate. Everybody hated Kate, and she was supposed to be the girl that you loved, but because she didn't give you anything in the game, when the other ones did, it felt awful. She felt like a chore. She was the most real girlfriend ever. Games are art, right? We figure out more and more about art forms over time. Look at music. We learn from music more and more over time. Music inherently can get more and more, it gets more and more complex. And also, we're able to do things with less and less people. And it's not saying that, just because stuff progresses doesn't mean that it's like, it's going to be better to you, right? It's just like once something is out there, we can learn from it, and different aspects of it can be incorporated into different songs, right? Humans, we work on something, especially in games, right? Games that used to be incredibly hard for people and didn't seem like they have solutions are now easy for us. One of the reasons humanity is so incredible is because we tell our stories to each other. Why do you think Twitch is so fucking cool? We're all better at video games than we've ever been before. Have you ever seen somebody who doesn't play video games play a game? They can't figure out what to do. If I gave a controller to any of you for a game that you've never played before, I already know the first two things you're going to do. You know the first two things you're going to do? The first thing that a player who knows video games are going to do, it's pretty much universal, and everybody's like pretty close to it. But the first thing that people do when they pick up a controller is they try to sprint and they jump. Those are like the first things that you do. You figure out your movement. Like you will try to jump and you'll try to sprint. Those are usually like that is what people try to do. And then as an extension, you figure out the controls. But a thing that is universal in games is jumping, and now sprinting is very universal. Why do we know that? because we understand the lexicon of information that is involved in game design. Because game design, every game is not starting from scratch. They're built on the foundations of other games. Once you create art, you are inherently putting it out there for other artists and other consumers and other people to inherit it and to digest it the way that they're going to, and then build upon it. But the thing is ultimately there is going to be a foundation that's built anytime that more art's put out there. And when you look at video games and games in general, you know, Mancala, for example, Mancala's existed for a really long time. It's a game about fucking planting beans, sowing seeds, planting beans. I'm pretty sure it started, like, that game is fucking ancient. Racing games, like all of these things, the mechanics have built up over time. And now those games seem really easy. You know, you look at all these people who play chess now, they could shit on the best chess players. You know why they can shit on the best chess players that ever existed? Because they learn from them. We get better over time, and like these systems that we create, they're based off of the systems. Yes, they can. They factually can. Like when you look at video games in general, like even look at Twitch, right? We're better at distributing that information now. Like it is much easier to be a good WoW player because we've figured out the game. Look at Magic the Gathering, right? There are new cards that come out that are completely broken all of the time in the meta. And it seems so obvious. Like, it seems so fucking obvious to us, right? When, this is a particular example, though. When Fires of Invention, right? Magic Gathering right now. Fires of Invention, when Fires of Invention actually happened as a card, when that card came out, I'm sure they internally tested it for such a fucking long time. But that card was so fucking broken. Why? Because somebody figured out one good idea, and then a bunch of other people were instantly able to net deck it and find that build, and then come up because that foundation was already made. They were able to then build on that idea further and push it and push it and push it. The thing is we don't hide those secrets anymore. What used to happen with like chess masters and things like that is that they would pass it down to a few people, and those few people would end up becoming incredible. Now everybody knows everything that happens. I'm not actually watching this video. Berserk said Rich really making a 34-minute video into a 24-hour one. In all actuality, we've been talking about a 1-minute video for 2 hours and 49 minutes. Basically, what I'm saying though is when we actually do, like, it's easy to jump on Joe Rogan's bald dick, but at the end of the day, if we do love video games, we got to realize that there are a lot of people making bad ones. And the reason that they're making bad ones is to take advantage of our time, to take advantage of our mind, to use the incredible things that make the art of video games and create something that can just be monetized better. And to do that, they want to get us addicted. They want to make us spend our money. And when you look at even the games that we love, we can see it there, and we should call it out, because if we don't call it out, all of those incredible things that we've experienced in games, we won't experience again. And people after us won't experience them. AAA studios are ruining video games.